Hello, I'm the Reverend Dr. Karen Petersen Finch. I'm Associate Professor of Theology at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, and I use Lonergan's work for my ecumenical scholarship and practice. So to begin, right now you might feel, as I do, surrounded by evil. And I'm speaking of evil in the Augustinian and Thomist sense as a privation of being and intelligibility. The virus is intelligible in a biological sense. We might call it an evil of natural defect. But there is moral evil, human unintelligible fault, all around us as we fail to contain the virus as quickly as we could, and as accounts of racial justice keep surfacing. And so you might say to God, God, please stop this. And God turns right back to us and says, why don't you? Now, I accept this question from God. I accept that some aspects of the fight against evil are under my control, but I don't know where to start. This is why I think the Lex Crucis, Lonergan's concept of the just and mysterious law of the cross, provides a starting place for these times. The Lex Crucis appears in a supplement to De Verbo Incarnato, which is now published as Volume 9 of the collected works, entitled The Redemption. Thesis 17 reads, "The Son of God thus became man, suffered, died, and was raised, because the divine wisdom ordained, and the divine goodness willed, not to take away the evils of the human race by an exercise of power, but to convert those evils into a certain highest good, through the just and mysterious law of the cross." What to notice in this law? Even though God has not chosen to wipe out evil in a show of force, we know this empirically, still God is continuously converting evil into good. And you may not be able to see that, but the law of the cross suggests that it is always happening around us. The engine of conversion is the voluntary acceptance of suffering that Christ exemplified in his redemptive acts. This conference is called The Art of Authentic Decision-Making. This had to be the most authentic decision of all human history, is Jesus' decision to take on evil through his personal suffering. God meets the unintelligibility of human evil with God's own decision to convert it, which is a mysterious excess of goodness. Now, if God's redemption strategy, according to Lonergan, is a law, an observable, reliable pattern of divine acts, that means that it applies to me too. And that means that my decision to accept suffering is a participation in the law of the cross and in God's mission to redeem evil. So here, I think, is a starting place for multiplying goodness right where we are. In the presence of disease and violence, it is natural to revert to self-preservation at all costs. It takes courage to prioritize, to decide to prioritize the well-being of the vulnerable other over my own well-being. But I believe that because I have been converted by God's grace, which is God's mysterious excess of goodness in selecting me as God's beloved. And because I have been converted by this goodness, I too can decide to live by the law of the cross, to convert evil into the highest good by accepting my own suffering. And this self-denial can take any number of forms within my circumstances, as long as we remember that it can't just be a matter of intention, it must be a matter of action, because as Lonergan says, the good is always concrete. So in summary, the Lex Crucis is helpful because it is mysterious, an excess of goodness beyond our understanding, because we can choose it with the Holy Spirit's help, and because we can express it concretely in any number of ways right where we are. I end with Jesus' words in Matthew 10:39. "Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it."